Adam Sandler walked into a luxurious restaurant in the heart of the city, dressed in simple, colorful and wrinkled clothes, as if he had just come from an ordinary day. He chose a discreet table, trying to go unnoticed, while the shine of the crystal chandeliers illuminated the surroundings. But before he even had the chance to place his order, a waitress approached with a look of disdain and an arrogant posture. "Are you sure you can afford to be here?" she shot, in a tone laced with irony, loud enough for other patrons to hear. What happened next would not only leave everyone in the restaurant stunned, but would reveal a truth that would change everything. Spago was a symbol of sophistication in Beverly Hills, located on one of the city's most prestigious avenues. Its large windows offered views of streets illuminated by luxurious neon signs and sports cars that cruised slowly by. Inside, every detail was carefully selected to impress. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling, reflecting off impeccably set tables, and the aroma of exquisite dishes lingered in the air. It was not just a restaurant. It was a destination for those who wanted to see and be seen. Mary, one of the most experienced waitresses at Spago, walked confidently through the dining room, sporting a rehearsed smile. Her immaculate bun and well-fitted uniform reinforced her image of efficiency and control. Working there was not just a job. It was a privilege, at least in Mary's view, who made a point of mentioning her prestigious position whenever she could. Behind this facade, however, there was an exaggerated pride that turned into arrogance. It was notorious among her colleagues that Mary, in just a few seconds, mentally categorized customers based on their clothing, manners, and appearance. "Some people just don't belong here," she would often think. The glass door of the restaurant opened smoothly, and a man walked in. He wore worn jeans, a simple t-shirt, and a comfortable jacket, but without any designer insignia. His presence was discreet, almost invisible, as he calmly made his way to the reception. Adam Sandler had never been the type of celebrity who liked to flaunt. Although he was one of the most recognized comedy actors in the world, his laid-back demeanor contrasted with the extravagant glitz of Beverly Hills. At that moment, however, Adam seemed like just another ordinary customer, and that was how Mary saw him when she looked up from the computer, interrupting a conversation about a VIP reservation with another staff member. Her gaze narrowed in a quick assessment. Her eyes landed on the slightly worn sneakers and moved up to the wrinkled clothes. "Good evening, how can I help you?" she said in a dry tone, her professional smile disappearing almost immediately. "I would like a table, please," Adam replied, keeping his voice gentle. Mary raised an eyebrow as if she had heard something absurd. Her expression conveyed the question, "Who does he think he is coming in here like this?" "Are you sure you're in the right place?" she insisted, crossing her arms. "This is a very exclusive restaurant." Adam maintained his gaze without flinching. "This is the right place," he confirmed gently. She let out a brief laugh of disbelief, shaking her head. "All right, one moment. I need to check something." She turned abruptly, making no effort to maintain politeness, and headed to an office next to the reception. She typed his name with exaggeration on the computer screen. Nothing appeared. She rolled her eyes and returned to the dining room, seemingly irritated. "Well, as I imagined, you don't have a reservation," she announced, her voice heavy with sarcasm. "We do have some tables, but just so you know, this isn't a common place." Adam remained unperturbed. "I really would like to dine here," he reaffirmed, in the same calm tone. Mary sighed, grabbing a menu with abrupt movements. "All right, I'll seat you somewhere appropriate. Follow me." She strode towards the back of the dining room without looking back, weaving through aisles between tables occupied by elegant couples and business people. She stopped in the most remote and least pleasant corner of the restaurant, practically next to the kitchen doors, and dropped the menu on the table with an audible thud. "Here is good for you," she said in a falsely sweet tone. "If you need anything, call me, but only if it's really necessary, okay?" Adam kept a slight smile. "Thank you. I'm sure it will be interesting." As she walked away, Mary muttered something loud enough for a nearby couple to hear. "He won't last 5 minutes. I bet he'll run out when he opens the menu." Mary guided Adam through the dining room with almost mechanical steps, not even checking to see if he was following closely. Instead of choosing a table in the center, where the golden light from the chandeliers highlighted the elegance of the place, she led him to a dimly lit corner near the service door. The clatter of dishes and the bustle of staff created a completely different atmosphere from the rest of the dining room. "I think you'll be more comfortable here. It's a little, shall we say, more private," she remarked, carelessly dropping the menu on the table. He smiled, even though there was nothing appealing about that location. "Thank you," he replied. Mary crossed her arms, narrowing her eyes, as if wanting to decipher whether he was being sarcastic or just innocent. "You're welcome," she retorted, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Just so you know, we usually reserve these special tables on slow nights, but today you got lucky." She turned on her heels, leaving before Adam could respond. Some time later, she returned to take the order, her demeanor even crueler. She opened her notepad with an exaggerated gesture, casting a cold glance. "Have you decided what you want? Or do you need a recommendation?" Adam calmly perused the menu and pointed to one of the more expensive dishes. "I would like the filet rossini," he said. The waitress feigned a laugh, covering her mouth as if she could hardly contain her mockery. "Oh, of course. Filet à rossini," she emphasized with a condescending air. "Just to confirm, this dish costs $350. You're aware of that, right?" Adam maintained his serene demeanor. "Yes, that sounds great." Mary shook her head theatrically. "All right, just so there are no surprises later. We prefer our customers to know the prices of everything." The actor remained unperturbed. "Of course, I'm aware." She sighed dramatically, jotting down the order. "Well then, as you wish. But just a heads up. Our chef likes this type of dish to be enjoyed by those who truly have refined taste. I hope it meets your expectations." As she turned to leave, she suddenly stopped. "Oh, and our minimum tip here is 20%. Keep that in mind." Adam showed no change in mood. He seemed genuinely comfortable, which only irritated the waitress more. While he waited, Adam remained seated, showing no rush. He observed the sophisticated decor, the flower arrangements, the pianist in the background. Some people in the dining room noticed the waitress's attitude and looked confused at the poorly dressed customer who wasn't reacting to her provocations. Mary, for her part, decided to make things more difficult. Before taking the order to the kitchen, she made a point to serve other customers, even some who weren't in her section. She chatted about wines, laughed exaggeratedly at others' jokes, and even delivered drinks to tables that hadn't called. She let time run deliberately, so Adam would wait as long as possible. After a long delay, she finally brought him the appetizer, practically throwing the dish onto the table. He thanked her with a smile, and she leaned in. "This is a very exclusive appetizer. Many people don't adapt to it." "I hope you like it, if you even know what you're eating," she said with a restrained laugh. Adam replied simply, "Thank you for the attention." She stepped back, frustrated as he didn't react. From a nearby table, an elderly man in a navy suit watched with interest. He seemed to disapprove of Mary's behavior, but Adam did nothing to complain. A couple further ahead was also whispering to each other, casting worried glances. Mary returned to the bar and commented to a colleague, discreetly pointing, "That guy pretends to be calm, but I bet he'll ask for tap water. It's always like this with these kinds of people, and he's going to freak out when he sees the bill. Want to bet?" The colleague tried to change the subject, visibly uncomfortable. "Maybe he just wants to have dinner, Mary. Why not treat him like any other customer?" She laughed. "Did you see his shoes? He doesn't look like someone who can afford anything here. I guarantee he'll disappear before facing the price." While Mary scoffed at Adam, some customers began to feel uncomfortable. A lady commented to her husband, "I think it's outrageous. He's so polite, but she treats him like he's less than others." The husband agreed. Maybe we should call the manager. It's clear this is humiliation. Nearby, the elderly man drinking wine decided to approach Adam. He leaned in and spoke quietly, but with clear sympathy. "Son, I noticed you're being ignored. If you need help, don't hesitate to speak up." Adam responded with a calm smile. "Thank you, sir. I'm fine, but I appreciate your concern." Mary immediately appeared, interrupting. "Can I help with anything, sir?" addressing the elderly man. "We don't want you to disturb our customer." He blinked, surprised by her authoritative tone. Then, to avoid further problems, he simply said goodbye to Adam and returned to his place, casting a disapproving look at Mary that she pretended not to see. Finally, the main course arrived. Mary left the food under the heat lamp for much longer than recommended and still placed it on the table with a rude motion. "Here's your order. I hope you enjoy it," she said, forcing a venomous smile. "If you don't like it, let us know, and we can swap it for something simpler." Adam looked at the dish. "It looks excellent, thank you." Mary leaned in, lowering her voice. "Are you sure? This is a sophisticated dish. It can be a bit difficult for someone who isn't used to it." He held her gaze. "Yes, I'm sure." Biting her lips in frustration, she left, muttering something about how people are mistaken thinking they can afford this kind of place. By this point, most of the dining room had already noticed the scene. Many had stopped talking and were just watching. The outraged couple whispered, appalled. The elderly man sipped his wine, shaking his head in disapproval. When Adam finished eating, he still maintained his calmness. Mary, waiting for some complaint so she could gloat, returned, "So, did it meet your expectations?" He smiled calmly. "It was delicious. Please congratulate the chef for me." She frowned, irritated. She went back to the bar and commented to the same colleague, "Let's see if he's still smiling when I bring the bill." Noticing that nothing fazed the poorly dressed man, Mary intensified her provocations. She spoke loudly about how the restaurant had standards and a reservation policy to avoid inappropriate people. Some patrons showed discomfort. The couple who had been watching everything commented, "She is openly humiliating the guy." "He's incredibly calm," the other replied, amazed. It was then that the head restaurateur, the manager, a middle-aged man with impeccable posture, entered the dining room. He noticed the tense atmosphere and followed the customer's gaze to Adam's table. His face immediately transformed upon recognizing the actor. "Mr. Sandler," he exclaimed, approaching with reverence. "I didn't know you were coming today. It's an honor to have you with us. How can I help?" Mary froze. She turned pale, seeing the manager approach the man she had so despised. She looked from Adam to the manager, not understanding. "Mr. Sandler? He knows." The manager completely ignored Mary, leaning slightly. "Can I do something to improve your experience, sir? I apologize for any inconvenience." Adam set aside the napkin and looked at Mary, finally revealing the truth. "Now, can we talk about how to treat people?" The silence was instant. Everyone was attentive, and Mary looked as if she had been struck by lightning. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. "Mary, what happened here?" demanded the manager with a stern look. I didn't know," she murmured, trying to justify herself. The manager turned back to Adam. "Sir, forgive us. Miss Mary was unaware of your identity." Adam raised his hand, interrupting him. "That shouldn't matter. I don't need to say who I am to be treated with dignity." His eyes fell on Mary. "It really doesn't matter if I'm a famous actor or just someone who came in for dinner." The waitress felt her legs tremble. She tried to speak, but the manager cut her off. "You are dismissed from serving this table. I will personally take care of Mr. Sandler. After that, we will have a conversation about your behavior." Mary's face turned red with embarrassment and suppressed anger. She stepped away, nearly stumbling. Around her, the customers murmured. Many expressed surprise upon learning that the simple man was, in fact, Adam Sandler, owner of a considerable fortune and co-owner of various ventures, including, they would later discover, stakes in restaurant franchises. The original narrative suggests he was one of the owners of the restaurant, so we keep the idea adapted to the actor's life. Adam sighed and stood up. Thank you, but don't worry. I'm satisfied with my meal. Then turned to the manager. But I would like to speak with the entire staff when the shift ends. Is that possible? The manager nodded vigorously. Of course, sir. It will be as you wish. It was past midnight when Spago closed its doors to the public. The dining room, now empty of customers, housed only the staff, in a semicircle around Adam Sandler. The manager was at his side, with an expression that was both tense and respectful. Mary, with her head down, was trembling. It was possible to see the tears welling in her eyes. Adam looked at each face, feeling the weight of all the gazes. Tonight, something happened here, he began, his voice firm but calm. It's not just about poor service. It's about how we judge people by their appearance, by their clothing, by the presumption of what they can or cannot pay. He looked at Mary, who sniffled discreetly. Mary, I know you take pride in the work you do. This is a special place and you wanted to maintain a standard, but dignity and respect are not optional. It is not up to us to decide who deserves good service or not. She raised her gaze, tears sliding down her cheeks. Mr. Sandler, I'm sorry. I had no idea that you didn't need to know who I am. That's the point. Adam interrupted in a gentle tone. Even if I were just an ordinary person, I should be treated with courtesy. Some staff members nodded in agreement. The couple who had previously been shocked had left the restaurant, but a portion of the staff that was still present seemed relieved to hear the actor's words. Everyone who enters through that door, Adam continued, pointing to the entrance, deserves respect. It doesn't matter if they wear an expensive suit or worn-out jeans. That's what places like Spago should exist for, a unique experience for each person, not just for an elite that we judge by appearance. Mary was openly crying now. I just thought about the restaurant's image. The image of a place is defined by the actions of those who work in it, Adam replied. Kindness is a value that cannot be missing. He sighed, looking at the other staff members. I hope you take a lesson from this. We are all human. Judging too quickly can close off opportunities to hear incredible stories. As he finished speaking, Adam gave a slight smile, but his gaze was serious. The manager announced that everyone was dismissed, but asked Mary to stay for a private conversation. As the others left, some came to greet Adam discreetly, apologizing or thanking him for the speech. Thank you for reminding us of that, said a young waiter, embarrassed before leaving. The restaurant was empty, the light from the chandeliers reflecting in the mirrors of the dining room. Mary approached Adam. I don't know how to forgive myself for this, she whispered, wiping her tears. He looked at her with empathy. We all make mistakes. What matters now is how you will act afterward, whether you will use this as a lesson and change your attitude or not. She nodded, her head down. I will change, sir. Adam. He chuckled softly. Just call me Adam. Then he pulled a card from his pocket. If you need help learning more about hospitality or even working at another restaurant, call me. I know people who can help. She looked incredulously at the card, unsure whether to accept. Thank you, but I don't know if I deserve it. You deserve another chance, as long as you are determined to be better. He extended the card, and she took it, her hands trembling. Adam said goodbye to the manager, who promised to reformulate training and review service policies. When he left Spago, the early morning in Beverly Hills still shone with luxurious signs and cars passing occasionally. He walked a little down the avenue, breathing in the fresh night air. Deep down, he felt good about having kept his composure and conveyed the message. He thought about how easy it would have been to react with anger, to humiliate Mary in front of everyone, but that wouldn't solve anything. It wouldn't create transformation. Kindness breeds kindness, he murmured to himself, remembering the times he himself had been helped throughout his career, from his stand-up comedy days to stardom in films. It was in the small daily choices that one could see someone's character. Before getting into his car, he took one last look at the facade of Spago, with its golden sign and elegant windows. He smiled, imagining how many people would be better received there after that night. The next day, rumors began to circulate in the Beverly Hills area. Some said that Adam Sandler had made a surprise appearance at Spago and that a waitress had treated him poorly, not knowing who he was. Others told a version in which Adam was the new owner of the restaurant, making a surprise visit to evaluate the service. In any case, everyone was talking about the same point. Respect and kindness should not depend on who a person is or how much money they have. Many customers who had been at the restaurant that night shared the story with friends and acquaintances, who in turn shared it with others. It became a lesson that echoed in the halls of luxury hotels, in beauty salons, and even in casual conversations among local residents. At Spago, the manager kept his promise to revamp the training. He began to emphasize a new maxim: every person who enters here should feel valued. Mary, for her part, was closely supervised, and despite her embarrassment, made an effort to show renewed humility. Some employees noticed the sincere change and supported her, understanding that everyone deserves a chance to improve. As for Adam, he continued his routine, sometimes involved in film projects and sometimes participating in charity events, without publicly dwelling on the subject. But those who knew his story saw yet another proof that the everyman of Hollywood comedies was, in fact, someone who practiced what he preached: calm, humor, and above all, empathy. In a society where judging by appearance has become a vice, Adam Sandler's story at the Spago restaurant serves as a reminder that humanity and compassion are the true measures of worth. It wasn't just an isolated incident or a display of power. It was about creating an environment where anyone, regardless of what they wear, deserves to be treated with respect. In the end, Mary was wrong, but she had the opportunity to learn. Spago exposed its shortcomings, but it was willing to change. And Adam, with his serene approach, transformed what could have been a simple act of revenge into a collective lesson. For many who heard the account, the reflection remained: how many times do we judge others without even knowing their story? How many opportunities for connection and growth are lost when pride takes over? Perhaps the next time someone dressed simply crosses our path, we should remember that every human being carries universes within themselves, stories we do not know. After all, as Adam Sandler himself demonstrated that night, it is in small acts of empathy that the world becomes lighter. And there is nothing more luxurious than the ability to see and respect others beyond appearances. If you enjoyed this story, we have many others that can warm your heart. Click like and then subscribe to the channel to explore more tales of hope, compassion, and resilience, because sometimes all we need is a small gesture of kindness to completely change the course of things.